The Galactic Council chamber glittered with crystal light, its vaulted ceiling echoing with the voices of 100 species. At the center stood Ambassador Kethar, feathers dull with age, voice steady with conviction. "Do not test them," he warned, his gaze sweeping across smug faces. "Humanity is unlike the rest. They do not forget. They do not forgive. If you strike them, you invite centuries of vengeance." Laughter rippled through the assembly. The Roland delegate waved a jeweled hand dismissively. "Every primitive says the same before we break them. They'll kneel like all the others." Kethar's claws tightened around his staff. He had seen the fire in human eyes, an ember that smoldered even in peace. But arrogance drowned his words, as it always had. And so the vote was cast. The fleets were ordered. The warning was ignored. The galaxy had no idea what it had just unleashed. The sky above Earth burned. It began with silence, the long, dreadful hush before the storm. Then the heavens tore open as alien warfleets descended, blotting out the stars. Thousands of ships shimmered like steel blades, their shadows stretching across oceans and continents. From orbit, lances of fire struck down. Cities vanished in white light. Billions screamed as the first day of war began. The Galactic Council expected surrender. For ages, their method had been the same: strike swiftly, crush resistance, and force new worlds to bend. To them, Earth was just another tally in a long history of conquest. But humanity was not like the others. In bunkers beneath the ruins of New York, in the tunnels of Shanghai, in the deserts of Africa, survivors rallied. Soldiers with outdated rifles stood beside children carrying homemade explosives. Civilians turned factories into armories overnight. The world bled, yet refused to kneel. At the heart of this defiance stood Admiral Sarah Chan, commander of Earth's fractured defense fleet. Her voice carried through battered comms. "They think this is the end. It is not. If Earth falls today, then tomorrow we rise. Humanity does not bow." Her fleet was pitiful compared to the alien armada, dozens of battered ships against thousands. But courage filled the void where numbers failed. The battle in orbit raged like a storm. Human ships darted between colossal cruisers, firing missiles that shattered shields and tore apart carriers. For every alien vessel destroyed, 10 more descended. Piece by piece, Earth's fleet was annihilated. Yet they fought, not for victory, but for defiance. When the alien flagship descended over the Pacific, Sarah Chan made her choice. Her ship, the UNS Dauntless, was broken, its weapons gone, its hull aflame. She opened one last channel. "To every soldier, every civilian, remember this day. Remember who brought fire to our home. We will answer. We will endure. Humanity will remember." With engines burning, she rammed the Dauntless into the flagship's heart. A sun blossomed in the void, tearing the enemy's pride apart in a single act of defiance. The explosion lit the skies, and across Earth's shattered surface, survivors saw it and believed. The Council had expected submission. Instead, they had witnessed the birth of something far worse. From the ashes of Earth, vengeance stirred. The fires on Earth smoldered for years. Cities lay in ruin, oceans boiled with wreckage, and entire nations were erased from the map. Yet amid the ashes, humanity endured. The Council believed the war was over. Their fleets had shattered Earth's armies, their bombardments had reduced continents to rubble. By all logic, the humans should have submitted. But logic did not bind the species of Earth. In the rubble of Mumbai, where millions had perished in a single strike, a survivor carved a single phrase into the scorched stone: "We will remember." That message spread across camps, outposts, and hidden bunkers, uniting a broken people. The survivors swore an oath not of peace, but of vengeance. Every fallen city became a rallying cry. Every mass grave a promise. Small acts of defiance began first. Alien patrols disappeared in the jungles of South America. A convoy delivering tribute to the occupiers was found annihilated in the sands of the Sahara. In the Arctic, an entire outpost went silent after a storm, its walls painted with a single word: revenge. The Council dismissed these attacks as the tantrums of a dying race. They underestimated the power of memory. Humanity adapted faster than their enemies could comprehend. Engineers scavenged wreckage from the skies, reverse engineering alien tech with a desperation born of survival. Farmers became weaponsmiths. Children were raised not with lullabies, but with stories of Sarah Chan's sacrifice. It was in this crucible that the hunters were born. Not armies, but shadows, strike teams forged from survivors who learned to fight the invaders on their own terms. They struck with precision, dismantling garrisons, capturing weapons, and spreading fear where the Council thought themselves untouchable. The first great act of vengeance came in Mumbai. The alien admiral responsible for the city's annihilation had built a colony on a distant, lush world. Human infiltrators arrived under cover of night, carrying scavenged explosives and stolen codes. By dawn, the colony was gone, burned to ash, every inhabitant dead. The galaxy noticed. Whispers spread of a species that refused to die, a people who carried grudges across generations. Where most civilizations surrendered to survive, humanity sharpened its rage into a blade. And still, the Council laughed. They are gnats, one delegate sneered. They sting, but they cannot kill. Ambassador Kethar said nothing. He had seen the ember in their eyes. He knew embers, when fanned, became fire. Humanity was no longer merely surviving. It was hunting. The first generation of survivors fought with desperation. The second generation fought with purpose. By the third, vengeance had become a culture. Humanity no longer defended Earth, they carried war outward. The hunters, once ragged survivors, had grown into fleets of steel and fire. Their ships were ugly by galactic standards, patched hulls, asymmetrical designs, a fusion of human ingenuity and stolen alien technology. But they worked. More importantly, they killed. Wherever the hunters appeared, silence followed. Entire outposts were found gutted, fleets ambushed in asteroid belts, supply lines severed. Colonies that once celebrated their role in Earth's conquest vanished overnight. No prisoners. No mercy. Only ruins, marked with human symbols, names of cities burned on Earth, etched into alien soil as warnings. The Council tried to hide the losses at first, claiming pirate activity. But rumors spread faster than censors could contain them. Stories whispered in shadowed bars, in the markets of neutral worlds, if the humans come for you, they will not stop. Not until your blood pays for Earth's. Alien strategists underestimated humanity's weapon, memory. Where other species forgot wars after a generation, humans passed them down like heirlooms. Grandchildren carried the grief of grandparents as if they had lived it themselves. Entire academies arose where children memorized the names of fallen cities like prayers. The hunters became more than soldiers, they were storytellers of vengeance, each raid another chapter in an endless saga of repayment. One strike in particular shook the galaxy. On a lush world in the Council's core territory, an alien governor who had once cheered the bombardment of New York awoke to find human ships in orbit. He begged for negotiation, offered wealth, even tribute. The humans gave their answer in fire. The world's oceans boiled, its skies turned black, and by dawn the planet was lifeless. The message was clear: time does not weaken our memory. Time sharpens it. Council fleets retaliated with overwhelming force, but every victory was hollow. For every human ship destroyed, another seemed to rise. Guerrilla warfare bled the council dry, forcing them to spread their armadas thin across countless worlds. Ambassador Kethar, long ignored, spoke once more in the council chamber. His voice was weary. You believe yourselves conquerors. But you have birthed hunters. They will not stop. They will not forgive. Humanity is not fighting for territory. They are fighting for memory, and memory does not die. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the council felt unease. The hunt had begun. And humanity was only getting started. Decades turned into centuries, yet humanity's fire did not fade. For most species, war was a storm violent, then gone. For humans, it became the air they breathed. Each generation was born into it, raised on stories of Sarachen's sacrifice, of cities lost and avenged. Vengeance was no longer just a cause. It was identity. Human fleets multiplied, transforming from scavenged relics into engineered predators. Their ships were lean, angular, built for ambush and pursuit. Entire shipyards orbited ruined Earth, forging war machines fueled by rage and memory. The galaxy began to whisper a new name for them, the Harbingers. World after world fell. Not conquered, not occupied, erased. Humans had no interest in ruling alien populations or harvesting tribute. Their campaigns were simple: seek those who had raised a hand against Earth, and annihilate them. Whole civilizations disappeared, their histories cut short. Some begged for mercy, offering apologies and reparations. The humans listened and then destroyed them anyway. It was not hatred alone that drove them. It was justice, sharpened to a blade across generations. Every massacre on Earth was answered tenfold. Every bomb dropped on their cities was repaid with the extinction of worlds. The council began to fracture. Member species withdrew, fearing that mere association might draw human wrath. Alliances dissolved in silence, governments fled into exile, and colonies abandoned their banners, praying the hunters would pass them by. But humans had lists, and they did not forget. What terrified the galaxy most was not just the destruction, it was the patience. Humans struck methodically, one name at a time, as if crossing off entries in a ledger. They would bypass entire sectors of undefended worlds, only to travel across the stars to erase a single settlement whose ancestors had once cheered Earth's bombardment. Their vengeance was precise. Personal. Unstoppable. The council tried diplomacy at last. Envoys were sent, bearing pleas for peace. None returned. One message did echo back, carried on a hacked transmission across the galactic network. A human voice, calm and cold. We remember. That phrase became the terror of the stars. Entire populations fled at the rumor of approaching human fleets, abandoning homes they had lived in for millennia. By the end of the second century of war, the council was a shadow of its former glory. The chambers where arrogant voices once mocked Kethar now stood nearly empty. Those who remained did so in silence, waiting for the inevitable. The galaxy had learned too late. This was not a war. It was an inheritance. And humanity would pass it down until the ledger was balanced. The council chamber, once the heart of galactic order, now echoed with emptiness. The seats where proud delegates had once jeered and laughed stood vacant, their occupants scattered or slain. Entire banners had been stripped from the walls, symbols of civilizations that no longer existed. Ambassador Kethar, older than most remembered, walked through the hollow hall. His feathers were gray, his frame bent, but his eyes were clear. He had warned them, long ago. Now the silence around him was the monument to their arrogance. News traveled fast, faster than any fleet. Human armadas had pierced the Council's core systems. One by one, defenses collapsed, not under overwhelming numbers, but under relentless, methodical assault. The Harbingers did not seek conquest, they sought erasure. When the last fleets broke, humanity came not with offers of truce, but with judgment. The great doors of the council chamber thundered open, and human soldiers marched inside. Their armor was black, scarred by centuries of war, their banners marked with the names of Earth's fallen cities. At their head stood the new commander of the Hunters, her gaze sharp as steel. She said nothing at first. She simply laid a book upon the central table, a book filled with names. Names of worlds, leaders, fleets, and species that had once raised their voices in favor of Earth's bombardment. The silence was suffocating. Then she spoke, her voice carrying through the dead chamber. We are not conquerors. We are not rulers. We are the memory of Earth. And memory does not forgive. The remaining council delegates begged for mercy. They offered tribute, apologies, even their own lives. But humanity was beyond appeasement. This was not negotiation. This was sentencing. Planet by planet, humanity declared judgment. Some were given the false hope of delay, only to be struck down years later. Others were erased in an instant. The Council, once a symbol of unity, became nothing but a grave marker for the arrogance of empires. Kethar watched it all unfold. He felt no triumph, no satisfaction, only the cold weight of inevitability. His warning had not been heeded, and now the galaxy was paying the price. The humans left the chamber as they had entered, silent, efficient, unstoppable. Behind them, the Council's heart was left in ruin. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy had no rulers, no balance of power, no council to guide it. There was only one truth. Humanity remembered. And their list was not yet finished. The chamber was quiet, lit only by the pale glow of a dying star outside. On the table lay the book of names, its leather scarred, its pages worn by centuries of hands. Every mark, every line, was a memory of vengeance carried across generations. Admiral Elena Chen, granddaughter of Sarah Chen, opened the book. Her fingers traced the faded ink of her ancestors' words, remember. For 3 centuries, humanity had remembered. One by one, the names had been crossed out, worlds burned, fleets shattered, species erased. The galaxy had long since stopped resisting. No one challenged the Hunters now. They were not conquerors, not tyrants. They were executioners, fulfilling a sentence written in fire. Elena turned to the final page. Only a handful of names remained. The last survivors of the Council's arrogance. She lifted her pen and drew a slow, deliberate line through the final entry. The ledger was complete. She closed the book and stood before her soldiers. It is done, she said softly. No cheers followed. No celebration. Just silence, the kind that comes when a promise, carved into the soul of a people, has finally been kept. Outside, fleets waited in formation, their banners still bearing the names of Earth's lost cities. They had not fought for empire, for wealth, or for glory. They had fought for memory. And now, with the final name crossed, humanity faced a galaxy remade empty of those who had wronged them, filled only with the echo of their vow. Sarah Chen's sacrifice had lit the fire. Generations had carried it forward. Now, at last, the fire could rest.